that you're looking for, Lord. Cause I want you. Now what's in the time I believe, now what's in the time you believe. As I wake up this morning, landlord don't call me. My body don't ring my phone. Say with that thing where you promise me. I know say you no go believe. Them no tell me say na so it dey be. I beg you take me back to days when it be saying I just to play and jump. Yeah. I just look now stand you better get up for you. Better know this.
Hey there, how is business? Would you like to advertise with us at Mainland 98.3 FM, where you get to connect with a large base of passionate fans and ardent listeners of our broadcast? We have flexible and highly competitive advert rates to suit your needs by negotiation. Contact us today on 0913 6000 420, 0913 6000 420, or send an email to info@mainlandfm.com.
A lovely morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. It's the 25th day in the month of July 2023. We're super hyped up and ready to accommodate you this morning on radio. Of course, whatever needs you might have regarding information, engaging conversations, even entertainment at the end of the day, we're here to take care or cater to all those needs of yours. Now, throughout every show that you'll be listening to today, we would most likely be joined by a team of specialists and analysts who would give us interesting, educative, informative insights into most of the subject matters that we would be addressing today on radio. So whether you're at home, you're commuting, whatever the case may be, just stay connected to Mainland 98.3 FM for an interesting day of intense conversation, of answering questions that you might have, and of course amazing music in between. My name is Sage Babalola, and again you're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Happening right this very moment is trends in the papers. I did tell you that information is definitely our forte, and for this segment of the show, for trends in the papers, we would be doing an examination of some of the reports that have been collated by different editors of newspapers and having conversations about them. And speaking of specialists who will be joining us for analysis, I am joined by one this very morning. Fuhad Saheed will be helping us with analysis as we examine the stories reported in the papers. Fuhad, good morning to you. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Yes, good morning, Saheed Babalola. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. I could be better, but very well, thank you. So, we're going to...
You'll be fine.
Fuad, you know that thing where you tell somebody to calm down when they're upset and it just aggravates the situation? Yes. Fuad, that's what you are doing now.
I withdraw my statement.
Fuad, that's what you are doing. All right, but thank you very much. Of course, we will be fine. We definitely will be spreading positivity and encouragement. That's what we're going to do today. But we have to get through the papers. Let's see the new information that we have or the developing stories that we have. Punch newspaper, we're going to start with that. And we have a report here regarding the state of the nation, basically. Now, the top story on the front page of the Punch newspaper, Labour talks tough. ASU protesters condemn relief plans. The writers to this story, Sanu ASU, say fuel subsidy unintelligently removed. NLC meets today. TUC rejects a 5% telecom tax, planned tuition hike, Kwara Ogun rollout palliatives. Those are the writers. Now, into the story itself, we have here the groaning occasioned by the removal of the fuel subsidy grew louder on Monday as the Nigeria Labour Congress said it was ready to fight the economic pains and hardship caused by the federal government's decision. The National Assistant Secretary NLC, Chris Onyeka, said the Central Working Committee of the Congress would hold an important meeting today and take a position. He said all the issues around the suffering of the masses because of the recent price hike in PMS would be addressed at the meeting. And in fact, they're going to give the federal government an ultimatum. Now, NLC is not just the only person talking tough. We also have university heads. Also, in Benin City, there's a protest currently ongoing with people marching with placards and what have you. And as a matter of fact, there's also been concerns about the plans of states to roll out palliatives. The union believes that the governors are not well equipped to handle the rolling out of the palliatives, and if anything, they're probably going to mismanage it or embezzle the funds that are meant to act as palliatives to people in the state. And that's just me trying to summarize all the many perspectives of those who are talking about the current state of the nation as a result of fuel price hike. So, Fuhad, first things first, what say you about the plans of Labour to give the federal government an ultimatum or they will embark on a strike, the protest in Benin City, the complaints of the lecturer, and the distrust that governors will be able to handle reeling out palliatives to members of the state?
I think my first statement to Labour this morning would be for them to have a plan as to what they will do if the government runs back to the court again to declare any strike action illegal. Because that's the pattern now. Remember, it was done during the ASU strike.
Yes.
I think there's even a subsisting court injunction now on any planned strike. So I think Labour needs to sit down. TUC, organized Labour, needs to put themselves together and understand that the government will do everything to frustrate any strike action. And one of those actions would be for the government to go to court to get whatever injunction. It could be the industrial court, it could be whatever regular court, to get an injunction to declare such an action illegal. So they should ask themselves, when such a court injunction happens, what is their plan? What would be their plan? What are they going to do? I'm not going to answer the question for them. I just decided to first start with that.
Yeah.
Again, I understand the frustration of Labour. And the frustration of Labour is not different from the frustration every Nigerian out there is going through at this time. And when I say every Nigerian, I'm talking about ordinary Nigerians. I'm talking about Nigerians who earn legitimate source of income, who do their businesses, who sweat every day, wake up every day, go out for their legitimate businesses, to earn a living. I understand their frustration. It's not different from the frustration of Labour, who currently is negotiating for their members. Because I must tell you that, look, the removal of subsidy, whether anybody likes it or not, are brought untold hardship on Nigerians. And I decided to define the Nigerians I'm talking about. Because whether you like it or not, there are Nigerians who may not be feeling the effect of this subsidy removal. Oh, maybe because they have access to free money. Oh, maybe because at the end of the day, they are close to the corridors of power. And so, are able to get their way around these things. So I feel for Nigerians who earn legitimate source of income, who sweat every day, who are out there, they control the low of the lowest, who are further, dragged into the mud with this policy. Sage, so that we don't waste too much time on this.
Yeah.
Because again, we continue to say, look, Sage, the worst form of ailment that sometimes you have doctors prescribing surgery for will probably be cancer, a tumor, right?
Yes.
And most times you see doctors say, the best thing to do is to quickly remove it before it spreads.
It spreads, yeah.
But Sage, yes, as dangerous, as delicate as a tumor is, or a cancerous tumor is, Sage, would a doctor take a patient to the theater to remove the tumor without preparing anesthesia or a recovery plan?
No, of course not.
You understand what I'm saying? I know you speak to doctors almost every week.
All right.
Have you ever seen a situation, or have you heard of a situation where, they suddenly diagnose and discover that, a patient has a tumor, is already getting cancerous, he needs an immediate surgery, and all of that. But have you ever heard anywhere in the world where that patient is rushed into the surgery, into a surgical room without any form of anesthesia, without any form of recovery plan?
In fact, they make sure there's no reoccurrence. They monitor you to avoid reoccurrence.
But here we are. We discovered that subsidy was a cancerous tumor that needed to be removed. And then, Algion just took Nigerians to the surgical room, removed it without any form of anesthesia or a recovery plan. And here we had the confusion. I rest my case.
Court. All right. Well, TUC is also talking about the 7.5% tax on diesel. They're asking for a reversal of some kind. I think it's too much, the 7.5 value added tax. I don't know if there's going to be a reversal of any kind, because I've not really heard deliberations on any of the taxes that has been imposed since the start of this administration. They seem to be willing to go through with these taxes regardless. But then again, let's just wait and see what happens at the end of all the deliberations and negotiations. Page 6 of the Punch newspaper is where you find this story. Let's move on now to page 3. Right, let's see what's going on page 3. And the headline here says, supervisors, invigilators, selling WAEC questions online, arrested on trial, WAEC boss. So we're talking about education at this time. So supervisors, invigilators selling WAEC questions online, they've been arrested and they're on trial, says WAEC boss Aragon. Now, this is an interview of some kind, right? But basically, they're talking about how a lot of, should I say, saboteurs in the education sector are now selling the answers to external examinations to people who upload these things online, and they're selling it for as cheap as 2,000 naira. Now, the body, WAEC as itself as a body, was being heavily criticized, but he says it's not the body. It would be unfair to blame an entire examination body. It's certain individuals working within the system that is allowing this fraudulent sale of exam questions online to continue. 2,000 naira, and he has said that it's one of the reasons we have a poor quality of graduates at this time. In fact, he says, and I quote, "Having a certificate you did not work for is a sin because you're trying to cut corners. Secondly, it reduces your self-esteem. You don't even believe in yourself, in your ability to do anything. Once you cheat, the self-esteem is gone." So Fuhad, I mean, it's a no-brainer that you would agree that all of the rot in the education sector is why we have low-quality graduates exiting that particular sector.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think the West African Examination Council, the body, conducting this exam, needs to look inward and ensure that this process is made more prudent. Again, if you compare WAEC to JAM in the conduct of the exam, although the argument might say, oh, JAM is just more of 2 or 3 days you are done with it, but I think WAEC can do better, so that you don't have cases of examination questions leaking ahead of the exams. I look at the brazenness. Officially, I also both sell it online. Just imagine. We know of examination questions leaking at the centers, supervisors get to the centers and then they begin to do all manner of sharp practices with officials of the school and students and all of that. One would think at that level, you can even begin to, say, okay, it's just a compromise at that level. But when people now get to the point where they're able to go online and begin to sell it, so it means the body needs to look inward. They need to take themselves again, look at the process of conducting the exam from start to finish, from how the questions are collated, printed, where they are stored, to where they are actually delivered at the exam centers, and also state when the exams are also going on. We've had reported cases of teachers helping students to solve WAEC questions on the board, and so you just have students writing the answers out and all of that. I think one of the things that JAM did with his own exam is to ensure that, look, the examination centers are monitored. The examination, the CBT centers, you must have a camera that is monitored from away from the center. So I know it's a lot of work. If you look at the number of students and schools that write the WAEC exam, but it can be done better. It's sad that this question released before the examination, and then you have students very.
Fuhad, we can barely hear you.
Is it better now?
Okay. Yes, it is.
So I think WAEC needs to do better. They just need to check the examinations process and make it a lot better.
Right. Yeah, they're also calling into the government looking into CBT examinations. They're saying they're failing in that aspect as well because they don't have enough CBT centers. There are not enough computers to even conduct the examination. So as much as we're tilting towards using technology, we don't have the resources for that. And with the progress that a lot of individuals have made when it comes to technology, they can easily manipulate an entire examination from the comfort of their homes now.
JAM conducts its exam using the CBT model. Or even JAM will tell you that it comes with a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
In fact, Jam sometimes has to delete some CBT centers, because it's not in the private people. You come, you register at the CBT center, they test your facilities and give you approval to help conduct the exam. But even at that, a lot of times you have CBT centers failing to provide power, their systems not working very well, frustrating the examination process. And if you look at the number of subjects that you have to write, or per head, it will be very, very difficult to conduct using CBT alone.
Right.
But again, they just have to look inwards and still have to read the examination paper.
Page 3 of the Punch.
Credible too.
Yes, page 3 of the Punch newspaper, you find details on that particular story. This is trends in the papers on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Now, we are streaming live on Facebook, so if you'd like to participate in today's show, you can go straight to our social media platform on Facebook, which also doubles as our streaming platform. So go to Facebook, Mainland 98.3 FM, and when it's time to take submissions, we will definitely be more than happy to take your contributions to the stories that are now being reviewed. So Facebook, Mainland 98.3 FM, YouTube as well, Mainland 98.3 FM, and also on Twitter at Mainland FM. This is still trends in the papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Babalola, and I'm still conversing here with Fuhad Saheed. Now, moving forward, there's another headline here on page 7. It says, most Nigerian leaders' knowledge of development is shallow, says Obasanjo. Most Nigeria leaders' knowledge of development shallow, says Obasanjo. Now, former President Olusegun Obasanjo on Monday lambasted Nigerian leaders, stating that most of them were empty as far as development issues were concerned. Obasanjo made this remark in Abuja while delivering the keynote address at the public presentation of a book titled Reclaiming the Jewel of Africa. It was written by a former Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, who also served as Minister of Finance, Olusegun Aganga. Now, I would like to read some of the things that he said verbatim so that we can ask questions from his statement. Now, one of the things he says was, if you ask most of our leaders why they want to be in position they are craving for, you will weep for our nation over their level of emptiness as far as development issues are concerned. What do they understand for peace, security, stability, predictability, development, growth, and progress to be actualized? I believe that peace, security, democracy, and prosperity must be taken all together. Any leader that fails to understand any of these, fails to bring them together to deliver good governance for the welfare and well-being of the people, cannot contribute anything of significance. He also says, we are carried along by ego, emotions of selfishness and self-centeredness, ethnic and religious jigoism, and total lack of understanding of the world, amongst other things. He says we're living dangerously on a keg of gunpowder, driving more people into poverty through good policies, poorly and thoughtlessly implemented, or bad policies, or no policies at all. And he said a lot more, but those are the parts I just highlighted for a conversation. So he has blamed the leaders of being shallow, in his words, and empty when it comes to coming up with ideas that would help us achieve development. He has also spoken about the fact that even we as a people, we the electorate, we're too driven by ethnic, religious sentiment, among other things, and because of that, we might not make significant progress unless we change. Fuad, what do you think?
Did he add himself to that list of leaders?
He said Nigerian, so I'll just assume that it's there.
No, leaders. He's part of the leaders of Nigeria.
Well,
he was a former president, he was head of state, and eventually, democratically elected in 1999. So it would have been nice to know whether he considers himself as one of those clueless leaders that have run the country aground. I wouldn't fault what he has said, that yes, indeed, with what we have in the country, with the level of poverty, amidst, the blessings of God that God has given to us as a country. And we're in this quagmire, the level of poverty, the penury, the suffering of Nigerians. There's no way you are going to fault what he has said about the cluelessness of our leaders to be able to make the lives of Nigerians better. That's a fact. It's a fact that you can never, fault. But the question is, do you consider himself part of those leaders who have put us in this mess? Because what he said is a statement that you expect to hear from somebody like Showore, who is an activist. If it was a Showore that was saying that now, Showore, he's been trying to run for presidency, or maybe if it was a Femi Falana that was saying this, it would have probably made sense to me, because it's an activist, a human rights lawyer, that's what he would say. But for me to hear it from somebody who ruled as head of state and also ruled for 8 years between 1999 till date, that was not able to do anything too when he was there. In fact, a lot of Nigerians, I'm sorry, people will say I go very hard on the former president. But I always say that, look, if there's any man in Nigeria, say, if there's any man or any leader in Nigeria that God has blessed severally and placed in strategic position to turn the fortunes of Nigeria around, it has to be former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Sage.
I'm with you.
If there's any leader, any former leader, are you with me, Sage?
Yes, I'm with you.
That God has positioned, blessed, given the opportunity to set up legal, political, economic framework to turn the fortunes of Nigeria around. There's no other person than former President Olusegun Obasanjo. And that greatest opportunity came in 1999. We started that democratic experiment with him. The politicians were not this corrupt, they were not this wise, they were not this intelligent and mercurial about turning things around and playing the politics that we now know. But what did he do, Sage? Instead of the former president building an enduring political and economic structure to get Nigeria to the promised land, he was trying to build a political empire for himself, thinking that, look, after power, he will continue to control everybody.
Hello, Fuad. Hello? Fuad, are you there? Oh, let's try to connect. Hello? Oh, okay. What we're going to do is try to connect back with Fuad, all right? We're still streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, Mainland 98.3 FM, so you can definitely participate and be a part of the show. That's if you don't have access to your traditional radio. We're talking about the statement that was made by the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, talking about how the behavior of our leaders, their cluelessness when it comes to policies bordering around development, and also the behavior of we as a people always making decisions based on ethnic, religious differences, among other things, is why we are in a polity that probably has not smelt development. Let's see if we have Fuad back on the line. Hello.
Yes, Sage, I'm here.
All right, please round off, Fuad.
So I'll make it very fast.
Yeah.
So again, here was a man that had every opportunity. You know, when you see Americans talking about their founding fathers, talking about their past presidents, those were people that selflessly served their country to put a framework. They thought beyond themselves. They were not ruling for themselves. What they were thinking was about the future of the country. To the extent that they were able to put political framework down for the United States of America. So no matter what, even if a non-entity becomes the president of America, there's a structure to work with. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
No matter who becomes the president of the United States, no matter how foolish the person may be, their founding fathers, their former leaders have put up a framework to guide the activities of whoever becomes the leader of that country. The former president Olusegun Obasanjo do that for 8 years. No! He was trying to build a political empire. We know the story of the third term, what led to it. 8 years became like the flash of the light. He never believed 8 years was going to come very fast. It happened suddenly. And then there was the talk for third term, although I've been denied, but the facts are there. The former president that used almost 5 Senate presidents was removing party leaders at will, turned the EFCC to a political witch hunt platform. What are we saying here, Steve? Have we forgotten the power project, the diamond power project of $15 billion? Nobody has probed it. The sales of government assets. What was the political structure he laid on ground as a former president? So I'm sorry, what else he said is correct about our leaders. But I think he needs to add himself to that list. And in fact, he has to stop that list.
Well, page 7 of the Punch newspaper is where you find details of that particular statement by former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Moving forward now, Navy will not stop burning vessels ferrying stolen crude. Navy will not stop burning vessels ferrying stolen crude. This is on page 12. Let's have a look at this story. Now, the flag officer commanding Central Naval Command, Rear Admiral Umar Chugali, has declared that the Nigerian Navy will continue to set ablaze vessels intercepted with stolen crude oil. Chugali explained that the burning of intercepted vessels with stolen crude oil was the Navy's standard operating procedure. The burning of the vessels have raised questions among Nigerians, including the House of Representatives. But speaking with journalists on Monday, Chugali said, so far, every naval personnel, unit and establishment is operating under the standard operation, which for now is very effective until another means is devised. According to him, the burning of the vessels will act as a deterrent to illegalities. He said the burning might not stop now, but later it might be reviewed. Fuhad, I'm sure that the question surrounding why the Navy keeps burning these vessels is because, first things first, we have a deficit of the product, right? And these vessels, when intercepted, it can very easily be used to bring about some sort of development. The government can decide to, commandeer it now and start using it for something that would be beneficial to the general populace. So would you say that the Navy is accurate in burning the vessels, or it can be converted to something that would be useful for the nation?
Well, the last time we talked about this issue, what the Navy said basically was that they were acting on instructions, and until they got another instruction as to what to do with these vessels and the stolen crude, they will continue to destroy it. But we have always questioned this idea of destroying these things. Apart from the question of whether these were supposed to serve as evidence, why do you want to destroy? Well, the crude, for example, what of the crude? The crude belongs to Nigeria. How can't we salvage the crude and then sell it legally, or take custody of the vessel? I've also said that, look, you can take custody of the vessel, for example, hand it over to the Navy, or make it a national asset. But the idea of burning it, again, one of the excuses they gave was that, look, if they keep it, there are people that will still take away the vessel, that it might still be stolen. There was this explanation that, for me, it's not just quote and unquote makes sense at the end of the day. Because, again, one would ask, there are people who are even saying that, I wish one that, look, because for you to even, destroy and burn off crude is not like petrol that you can burn off easily. Crude is not something that will go. What of the environmental degradation that happens in destroying things like this? The water bodies are affected and all of that. I think that we should have a rethink on this idea of burning evidence, burning vessels, stolen crude, just burning everything. I think it doesn't really make sense. We can salvage these things if we have to make it a national asset, hand it over to the Navy, see what we can do with it instead of just burning all of these things. Yes. Nobody's questioning the idea of arresting vessels with stolen crude, but burning it is what people are questioning. The idea to burning these things does not really make sense.
Page 12 of the Punch newspaper, you find more details. Moving forward now, still talking about crude, but in a rather crude manner.
Sweet crude.
It's just, I'm still talking about crude, but the illegal procurement of crude, which has led to an accident in Ondo State. Now, pregnant women, children among Ondo tanker fire victims. Petrol. Pregnant women, children among Ondo tanker fire victims, says eyewitness. Now, we're talking about the incident that happened in Ondo State. Ondo's Sector Command of the Federal Road Safety Corps has disclosed that 8 people lost their lives in the petrol tanker fire that occurred along the Bini-Ore-Shagamu Expressway on Sunday. This is just as eyewitnesses told correspondents that 2 pregnant women and 3 children were amongst the victims of the fire. Although the FRSC casualty figure has contradicted the earlier report that claimed 20 persons were burned to death, the FRSC is claiming that just 8 people died. But with the argument about how many people died is not really the crux of the conversation. We're talking about the fact that there's still the behavior of scooping petrol from a falling tanker. It's here that the driver was over speeding and what have you, was trying to maneuver on the road. The driver and his assistant actually were able to escape unhurt, but people were scooping the petrol and a flame ignited, and then we had 8 people died, 20 people died, regardless of the situation. But Fuhad, is this a behavior we would be able to curtail? People scooping petrol from falling tankers, or do we need to devise a different route entirely for these petrol tankers? Oh, I think we lost connection with Fuhad. My sincerest apologies. We'll try to get him back on the line. We're still asking the questions. What do we need to do to curtail this behavior of people scooping petrol from tankers that have been involved in an accident? And I was also asking the questions that in order to maybe minimize accidents like this one, would there be a need to cut out a different path entirely for the transporters of this petrol? And also, I know that in states like Lagos states, there's a specific time that these tanker drivers can move, although not very strictly adhered to. But how can we minimize these accidents and sensitize people that scooping off petrol is a dangerous endeavor? Fuad?
Yes.
Yes,
There
you
are
heard my
three
question.
issues here.
Okay.
Yes, I heard you
Yeah.
clearly. There are three issues there, Sage. The first thing is to look at the desperation of Nigerians when accidents like this happen, to go into what I call a suicide mission.
Right.
Because the idea of trying to scoop fuel from a falling tanker, petrol tanker, for me is clear suicide mission. It's as good as just going to death, trying to just kill yourself. And we have had several cases of people trying to do this, getting burned. Sometimes the numbers are higher than this. Although there are questions as to the number of deaths in this very unfortunate incident. The officials are saying 8. Witnesses are saying more than 20 people have been burned to death. But again, whatever the number, this is avoidable, it's unfortunate, and it's sad that it has happened this way. So we need to sensitize our people the more that, look, this is a suicide mission. When something like this happens, please stay away completely and allow the appropriate authorities to attend to it. In fact, if you look at the story, say, the driver and the motorboy
escaped.
So they understand the implication of what has happened. I'm sure they listen immediately. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it is important. Again, you also have people trying to get close, trying to take video pictures of situations like this. Even for passerby, for people standing close to it, it's also very dangerous. Then apart from people who try to scoop I think we need to try to stay away from things like this. There's also the issue of the tankers themselves. How road body are these tankers safe? If you see an average petrol tanker in Nigeria, even without being technical, without any technical knowledge, you will know that a lot of them are not roadworthy. You can see that a lot of them have maybe brake issues. You see the way they are moving, trying to steady themselves. You probably see a motorboy holding one stick, to shock it while they are moving. So most of these tankers are not roadworthy. So we need to ask the FRSA officials, is it only private vehicles and all of that they are asked for roadworthiness? Are we sure that these tankers, the officials are actually checking their roadworthiness, whether they are supposed to be on the road? Because mere looking at a lot of them, you know that they are not supposed to be on the road.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the condition of the driver, their mental stability. The condition of their brain when they are driving these tankers.
They drink. Most of them drink.
Some of them are, because again, some of them drive overnight. So they stay on drugs, they try to, get themselves pumped up and wait all through the night. So mentally, some of them are not stable. We need to check their mental state of health, because whether you like it or not, driving a 30,000 liters petrol on our roads, should be in the hands of somebody that is completely mentally stable. Because that product can, look, apart from people trying to scoop fuel, we have situations where there are tanker accidents, and innocent people who stuck in traffic have been burned to death.
Yes.
Otedola Bridge has several cases, Ojuelegba has several cases. We are not even talking about people who go there to scoop fuel, people who are just in their cars, in a traffic situation, and an accident happened with a tanker, and they were burnt with their cars and themselves stuck in their cars. So anybody that will be moving a 30,000 liters fuel on our roads should be somebody who is mentally stable. We need to also check that.
All right, page 4 of the Punch newspaper, you get more details. And finally, we have 3 Osun students hospitalized as gunmen opened fire on Baba shop. Now, 3 students of Osun State College of Health Technology, Elisha, have been shot by gunmen suspected to be cultists near the institution's campus. The incident reportedly occurred on Sunday at a Baba shop in Amuta Junction, Elisha, where the victim had gone to charge their mobile phones. Now, there are deductions. The students believe that this is a result of a fraternity war of some mankind, and we have people who are casualties of this war. Fuad, I don't know what we need to do to get a handle on this cultism situation that we're seeing in the West. I know that is on our thing.
Our law enforcement, our law enforcement agencies need to do their job. I think the thing is to arrest these guys and prosecute them. When we begin to send people to jail for activities like these, maybe to form a form of start out some of deterrence. It is just for our security officials to do their job. Arrest whoever. This is criminal. Whether you do if you go ahead shooting people and killing people, it's criminal.
Yes.
Whether it's a fraternity issue or not, it is criminal. You have killed people. So until we arrest people and they are prosecuted and we have records of people being sent to jail or killed for killing other people, this will not stop. I was hoping that on the Punch there's a story of the Lagos mass burial. I don't know.
It's not on the Punch. I think the Guardian has that. Yeah, the Guardian has that story.
Right.
We'll take it.
We'll talk about
yes,
it.
we're good. Right. We're just about to move to the Guardian newspaper now. So maybe we should even actually start with that particular story. Now, mass burial. Amnesty International tackles Lagos government on identities of EndSARS victims. So let's talk about that. Amnesty International Nigeria has asked the Lagos State government to disclose the identities of 103 victims of EndSARS protest due for mass burial. The organization was responding to a leaked memo dated July 19, 2023, addressed to the Lagos State Ministry of Health. The memo indicated that the state government had approved more than 61 million for the mass burial of 103 identified victims of protests in October 2022. Now, the director of Amnesty International, Issa Sanusi, has brought some things to fore. He says, and I'm quoting now, "It is appalling that the Lagos state government had not even mentioned that it held the bodies of 103 EndSARS victims in its custody since October of 2020. Even all of those detained because of their role in the EndSARS protest have not been released and should be immediately released. Nigerian authorities must also ensure that the victims and their families are provided with access to justice and effective remedies, including adequate compensation." So Fuad, this story came out over the weekend, and there's been a lot of perspective on the story. And now we're having the director of Amnesty International saying, first things first, why did you hold on to the body of 103 unidentified persons since 2020? Have the families been compensated? Have anybody even come to claim the bodies? All those that were arrested during the protest, have they been released? Have they been tried? What is going on with that particular situation? Fuad, with this new information and what the Lagos state government has said regarding it, is this starting to make more sense to you, or you also have questions?
Well, there are questions. It may be different from that of Amnesty International.
Okay.
Because again, yesterday I said that, look, after the EndSARS issue and the panel of inquiry was set up by the Lagos state government, Dr. John Obafunwa, who was the chief pathologist of LASUT, in his testimonies, he appeared before the panel several times, and in one of his testimonies, he had said that, look, over 90 bodies were in the Lagos state morgue as a result of the EndSARS incident. And I think clearly at that time he had said that 3 of those bodies came from the Lekki toll gate incident, whether they were shot or a cruise stampede or whatever. But that some of these bodies were picked from different parts of Lagos. After the shooting at the Lekki toll gate, there were a lot of things that happened in different parts of Lagos. Police stations were burned, policemen were attacked, policemen were killed, individuals were killed. There were ethnic clashes that also resulted from it. And the chaos and the pandemonium led to the deaths of people in different parts of Lagos. I must say, as a journalist, we were covering the issue of Fada. People in Musi will tell you what happened and all of that. So, at that panel of inquiry, from what the chief pathologist of Lagos State has said at that time, I'm not surprised that they have that number of bodies, because he has said that about 99 bodies at that time were recovered. And there was also a publication after the EndSARS incident calling for the public who have any missing loved ones to come to the Lagos State morgue to come and identify them. That's because again, when issues like this come up, as the fourth essence of the realm, we must put it in proper perspective. Now, the question would be that, look, were these from the Lekki toll gate or from other parts of Lagos State? I said it yesterday, whether anybody likes it or not, the Lagos State government still needs to answer some questions. And again, the governor, I'm sure, must have learned a whole lot of lessons as to what happened during that time. the way the issue was managed or mismanaged. In fact, to a great extent, the entire NSAS episode was mismanaged by the governor. And I'm sure he must have learned a very bitter lesson. As to what Amnesty is saying, that, oh, they should not be buried for identification and all of that, I don't know, because, again, these were bodies that have been there for almost 2 years. And the government has called for people to come and identify their people and all of that. But still, there's also another interesting part of this story that I think we need to highlight. You know, this story came up as a result of a leaked memo.
Yes.
It was not as if the government published the memo. It was a leaked memo from a government official, because they were the only ones that could have leaked this memo. That, look, a whopping 61 point something million naira was to be used to bury, for mass burial of 103 persons. And look, again, we are talking about an era where government needs to become very prudent about how they spend public funds. Say, at this time, you know, that was the conversation. That's another conversation that we need to talk about. And, you know, we see responses from the spokesperson of government questioning and condemning the fact that people are questioning that spending pattern. Say, if you punch your calculator, just do a quick calculation. 103 persons were to be mass buried. Look, anybody can say anything. We've seen mass burials before. The bombing incident at Ezigbo, we saw how mass burial was conducted. 61 point something million over 103 bodies means that the Lagos State government is telling us that one body over half a million will be used to bury one person. Yes. That's what it means. Over half a million if you punch.
Yes, 592,000.
So the Lagos State government is telling me, I'm a Lagosian. That money is part of public funds. It belongs to me as a Lagosian, as a taxpayer in Lagos State. So the government is telling me that each body will be buried with over half a million naira. You know, I've talked about the identity of the bodies, whether it was Lekki Togate or not. Again, a lot of questions still on that. But again, when it comes to public expenditure and the way government manages public funds, this is also one thing we need to highlight. 61 point something million given to a contractor to mass bury 103 dead persons. Stage. How is mass burial conducted? You may not know. But I've seen mass burials before. It's not like you are going to, there's no Ashwebi.
Of course
no.
not.
Now, there's no cooking, there's no rice, there's no cow. This is mass burial, for God's sake. God help us all, Sage.
God help us all, indeed. Well, that's it for that. You can read page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, let's move to the story here. Made in Nigeria smartphones fumble as monthly importation hits 50 billion naira. Now, let's talk about the state of our technology in the country. This is on page 6. The writers to this story, NCC Type approves 2,112 brands in 15 years. Nigerians embrace fairly used unit as devices cost 100,000 naira to 1 million naira. Country has weak regulation, says Chinese vendor. Stakeholders urge President Tinubu to look at sector for job creation. China, South Korea, Finland, brands dominate market. Local vendors decry poor enabling environment, tax federal government on forex stability. Now, despite ranking among countries in the world with huge mobile connections, manufacturing of mobile phones in Nigeria has remained a mirage, as over 99% of mobile devices in the country come from abroad. Now, even with a tough economy and plummeting purchasing power, purchase of telephone devices remain upbeat. Up-to-date data are scanty. From 2019 to 2021, the total telephone shipment into Nigeria is $2.35 billion, bringing the average monthly importation to $65.2 million at the current exchange rate of 768 naira to a dollar. Now, there's also a list of local brands that have been producing mobile phones in the country, and they're telling us what has happened to these brands. The fact that they started out really great, but in few years down the line, they are nowhere to be found. They mentioned AfriOne, RLG, a Ghanaian brand, among other things. So basically, they're talking about how we have failed drastically when it comes to the production of mobile phones, and how the majority of our resources goes into importing the devices that we use in Nigeria? Fuad.
Well, again, our level of technological know-how to produce phones of, what we get, from importation is still very low. You understand what I'm saying, whether anybody likes it or not. I think we're even trying that we can have made in Nigeria phones. Again, look at the challenges, the technical know-how, the issue of power and all of that. We'll get better, but again, it's difficult for anybody to say that, look, we'll not continue to import smartphones. See, a lot of us want to carry some of these luxury phones with smart features, sleek body, good design, and all of that. But I always remember what Chief Obafemi Awolowo of blessed memory said about technology and about how developing countries can get better with technology. He said no country is going to transfer technology to you. You have to go and steal it. And if you remember, that was how China, Taiwan, and some of these Asian countries started. They started by imitation. But they kept getting better with it. Today,
original brand.
So if we are waiting for a transfer of technology, we have to continue to imitate, try to get better with it, improve, and then spend more on technological innovation, and that's why it's important for us to fund our schools, fund our universities, get more people out in that area, and then, of course,
technical schools, technical schools more precisely. All right, we have to move really fast right now. Let's talk about this. Akpabio eyes constitutional role for traditional rulers as Abbas commits to restructuring. Here we have constitutional roles for traditional rulers may soon be a reality. Senate President Godswill Akpabio gave the reassurance yesterday when he received royal fathers across the 36 states of the Federation. He says, and I quote, "Your request for constitutional roles in governance is not strange to us, in particular to me, based on my background. My late grandfather was a traditional ruler, and in fact, the warrant officers used by colonial masters for effective implementation of indirect rule. During the period, traditional rulers effectively tackled issues of safety and security in their various domains." So, Fuad, what do you think about granting constitutional power to traditional rulers? Do you think it will be quite beneficial to the rule of law? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, Sid, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
It's not a bad idea, but again, we need to be more specific as to the roles we want to give to these traditional rulers. We need to be more specific. What roles precisely, But again, I also have my concerns, how some of these traditional rulers emerge. It's also a source for concern. Everything has been politicized.
Right.
In the Yoruba traditional setting, it's supposed to be Ifa, that is supposed to, choose these traditional rulers.
Right.
But we know that a lot of times the Ifa is supposed to be government house. You have politicians and governors. They are laughing. It's true now. They moved the farm from the oracle has been moved to the government house. So you have all manner of things, happening with the way these traditional rulers emerge. And then the personality of some of these traditional rulers too, their behavior, their emotional intelligence, their their charisma, their public behavior and outlook sometimes, want you to somehow you question, the kind of people we are our traditional rulers. I'm sorry, a lot of fantastic people, well educated. But some of them, you have your questions around their personality, the way they behave sometimes. But it's not a bad idea. But I don't think that's a priority for Nigerians. That's not what they're expecting from the Senate. We have bigger things to do.
Right. All right. And we're just going to have to read through the rest of the headlines that we have here. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go through every single story. But here we have, as creativity goes awry under guise of skit making and pranks. The story is pretty much addressing how some pranks are devoid of ethical standard and framework. And the arrest of one Trinity guy, I think, is less than enough for pranksters. There's been a reduction of pranks as it is. Now, Nigeria has failed Africa. Poorly implemented policies drive citizens to poverty, Obasanjo laments. Also here, tribunal nullifies Labour Party candidate election, declares PDP Elumelu winner. That's on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. If you like to read through.
1 minute on that story.
Okay.
Very, very important story that we need to pay attention to.
Right.
There have been a lot of cases in the tribunal, and this is one very important case that I think Labour Party supporters need to pay attention to, because it may well affect a lot of the Labour Party candidates in the last election. Right. That case was decided on technicality. whether a lot of these Labour Party candidates had their name on the Labour Party register as members in their primary. So again, because we cannot open it up too much.
Maybe when we come back for mainland focus, we'll open it up before we start taking contributions.
Before we start mainland focus, right. We talk about it.
Yes, we can do that. All right. Other stories here. Vanguard says anxiety as serving ex-governors, others pile pressure on Tinubu. This is regarding the ministerial list. We still have heavy lobbying from certain APC stakeholders.
Even to the last.
Yes, and we have just 3 days left, but they're still lobbying seriously. We have here Tinubu is not a magician. APC did not promise overnight solution, says Adams Oshiomhole. That's the person who said it.
He didn't present himself as a magician.
Well,
but we didn't expect him to also fail us. But I think Oshiomhole should just stay away from making statements that are further influencing ideas. We knew he was not a magician.
Right.
He didn't come to us with sticks and with funny-looking acts when he was contesting.
Right.
He came as a politician who understood our problems and to help us. So the idea of not being a magician is not what we are talking.
All right. Well,
that's what we are saying.
Protests rock Benin over fuel hike. And finally, the nation, subsidy removal, more states roll out palliative. Tinubu will fix insecurity, says Akpabio. And also, resident doctors give conditions to halt planned strike. And that's all we can take this morning for trends in the papers. Please stick around and stay with us as we're going to go on a brief commercial break. Now, when we get back at 8:40 a.m., it will be time for Mainland Focus. Not to worry, we'll review the Labour Party story and the nullification of Ngozi Okolie, I believe, in the House of Representatives in the state. And then we'll open the phone line so that you can contribute as well. My name is Sage Babalola. Fuhad will also be joining us for Mainland Focus at 8:40 a.m. Don't go anywhere.
Mainland 98.3 FM, your number